Hey there, if you've read the title, you probably know the score. Mostly. That being said, a lot of you are relatively new here. I got in a lot of people from the Skylanders videos recently, and usually I'd really like to capitalize on that, but recently things have been a bit slow. And that's because of a couple reasons, both because of just IRL, things going a bit rough for me right now, makes it hard to want to focus on making videos, but beyond that, I have also been focusing a lot of my attention elsewhere recently. Some of you already saw the community post about it, but to bring you up to speed, I also make music, but I tend to keep a lot of it off of this channel because I made a second channel for that, Technocosm. Now, I don't stay completely consistent about keeping stuff that belongs on Technocosm, but that's not a mistake. To be honest, I would have everything on here if I could. It's just that, well, for one, it's nice to have one channel where I can fuck around and do whatever I want and it's fine, and another channel that maybe, hey, if I was at like a job interview or something, I'd be more comfortable to show. But it's also just because videos that really are just, here's a piece of music, especially on YouTube, don't tend to do as well, and most of you here probably aren't interested in that anyway. But when it comes to videos I can actually make talking about my experiences with that tends to bridge the gap a bit, and also tends to be a bit more casual anyway, and so it fits a bit more on this channel. Either way, I've been away because I've been challenging myself, I guess, when it comes to the music. You see, obviously I feel like I've gotten a lot better at it over time, and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at with it. But one of the only major flaws I still saw with myself when it came to making music that I really hadn't tackled all too much was just how slow I would go. And that was partially because a lot of the time I would have other stuff on my plate, like of course this channel and of course my university work. But I think another big part of that was that I am very self-critical with a lot of the stuff that I make. Usually not in the end, usually after it sits for a bit, I'm happy with it. But while I'm making a track, I feel like I almost always go through this phase where towards the start, I'm like, this is pretty good. And sort of like 25% of the way through, I'm like, holy shit, I'm cooking. This is going so well. And then once it gets past the like halfway point, I start thinking, oh no, I'm ruining it. Oh no, it's so bad. Oh no, I ruined it. It was good and now it's terrible. And a lot of times when it comes time to finally finish working on a track, I'm kind of not happy with it at the end. I kind of want to work more on it, but I just know that there's nothing more I think I can do. Until eventually after a couple days, I tend to realize, okay, wait, I'm catastrophizing way too much. This track is turning out better than I thought. I did not need to be so worried about this or that. So considering that I usually went into every new track with a new set of goals, and I was finally kind of starting to run out of goals to set for myself, I thought now was a pretty important time to try and tackle that whole spending too long on things issue. And I got a very conveniently timed opportunity to take part in my first fan remix competition, remixing a track from Disciple Knights of the Round Table Volume 6. I realized there would probably be a deadline for this and it'd probably be shorter than what I'm used to. So I thought, this is a perfect opportunity. I've got to get in on this. Though I wasn't ready for just how little time you would be given. The deadline was 2 weeks from the announcement. And again, as a reminder, before this point, average time frame for me to make my next color-based track was anywhere between 4 months to a year. So going from taking that long to finish a track to finishing one in 2 weeks sounded like a nightmare. I knew that I could probably do it, but I thought there'd probably have to be a lot of compromise. Though at first, my perspective going in is maybe that's my problem, that I don't compromise enough, that I fret too much over every little detail. So you know what? Hey, this'll teach me how to make compromises. But, at least in my opinion, as it turned out, what it really did is it taught me how to fucking lock in, apparently. Because for the next 9 days, I practically lived, breathed, and slept FL Studio. I would wake up, get on FL Studio, eat, get on FL Studio, eat again, go for a walk to take a break, but even on the walks, I'd be listening to the drafts of the track that I made over and over, looking for tiny little mistakes, come back, get on FL Studio, eat again, get on FL Studio, go to sleep, repeat, so you can wake up the next day and get on FL Studio again. And I basically did that for 9 days straight. I don't know, maybe there was like 1 or 2 days where I did something other than FL Studio, but for the most part, it was like just FL Studio all the way. Thank God this was after I finished my uni course. But something strange happened with this track. Something that sounds like something I should be really happy about, and I kind of am, but I'm also kind of frustrated about. I went into this track expecting I was going to be very dissatisfied with it by the end, but that I would have to learn to live with that. That I would make a track that maybe there's some admirable things about it, but there's going to be things I think I fucked up given how little time I gave for myself. But instead what happened was, in 9 days' time, I felt like I'd finished. I listened to the track that I heard, and I didn't just think it was a point at which I could call it done and live with myself. I felt like it was the first time, maybe ever, I'd finished a track and I was like, wow, I feel like I haven't made a mistake here, so to speak. There's nothing here that bothers me, there's nothing here that I think this needs to be a little bit different. Everything came out kind of exactly how I wanted it. And you might be wondering how on earth could that be spun into a negative? Well, here we go. I mentioned this was a remix competition, and when I first went into it, I was not all that serious about it. You know, I didn't really mind what happened, I just wanted to have fun with it. And the further I got into it, I got really invested, and I really started to think, wow, I have this, right? I can win this. And as you can imagine, once it turned out so great, I just felt like, even though I knew it wasn't good to think, I couldn't help but think, I don't see how I lose with this. Especially considering this isn't like one winner, by the way. This is like 25 winners for 25 different tracks. So the chances that I'm not one of the 25 winners, I was starting to feel like would be really low. But you can probably see where this is going. The day comes and I won runner-up. And unfortunately, there isn't a prize for runner-up. You basically just get to say you were a runner-up. I think you get put in like a SoundCloud playlist, but yeah, no, it's... yeah. And I gotta admit, you know, if the me that went into that, like, you know, the first couple days heard that I was gonna win runner-up, I probably would be like, oh, wow, cool. But like, after a few days in, the amount that I gave to that track, I thought there is no way this could get runner-up. And I must admit, that was a fucking gut punch. And it's one of those things where I don't like to be like really petty about this, but at the same time, I just think to myself, I think it bothers me so much because I feel like I can't think of anything I could have done better, you know? And I'm usually the opposite of that. I'm usually like, oh, I know this was good, but this could have been better, and 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 this transition didn't work well. This was like the only time I finished a track and I was like, damn, I actually stuck the landing. This was like all the way there. And it's one of those things where I guess it really gets to me because it's not even like, everyone likes to say, well, okay, maybe you didn't win, but it's fine because you know how good you were and all that. But for me personally, that doesn't really help. Because if I'm real with you for a second, this could sound really smug, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like it's any better for me to be self-hating and almost attention-seeking in a way by saying, oh no, my stuff's terrible, really, please check it out, please like it. So I guess maybe I'm going too far in the other direction here, but I guess I've got to say it with all my chest. I do believe that I'm good at this. I do believe that I have what it takes. I don't have any problem with that specifically. Where the problem lies is being able to bring that to everyone else. And it just feels like every single time I go to do it, I'm almost there. And there's always got to be some reason I'm not quite there. But that reason never seems to be clear. I do believe I have a serious talent for this. And it's kind of frustrating because as I say that, I do think, oh wow, yeah, every like, you know, self-absorbed person who thinks they're great at music thinks that. But at the same time, the second you start feeling down about yourself, everyone suddenly snaps back to you wanting to convince you it's true. And I guess I know it's obviously not anyone's fault, but it's just frustrating to me that I feel like it's ping-ponging between trying to justify why I feel like I'm talented, and then when I give up justifying, everyone then trying to convince me, no, you're great actually, you just didn't do good enough. And I mean, I guess it's just the nature of music to some extent, but at every turn, not really being able to get an answer as to why it's not good enough. I know it's wise for me to keep some level of distance here, but at the same time, I really do want to come out with this because it's why I've been struggling to be productive recently. I know it is bad to decide, oh, what's the point, I'm not going to do anything because nothing's going to be good enough, but at the same time, when people try to tell me, no, that's not true, it's like, well then why is it literally always true every time I do it until suddenly I say, actually I'm fed up with this. You know, I don't say that as an actual, damn, screw other people, because I know none of it is happening on purpose, and it's not because anyone's out to get me or anything. But it does just kind of feel frustrating, that feeling of when you're up, and you're actually proud of yourself, you feel like you have to, at every turn, justify to everyone else why you're proud of yourself and why you feel like you have any shot at being anything decent. And then the second you're down, it's like suddenly everyone's trying to convince you you're so great the moment that you finally, you know, lose faith that you are. And on one hand, you want to listen to them because obviously you want to believe that you're good at this. But on the other hand, you just think, oh God, how long is this cycle going to continue? Because the second I believe in it again, the same thing's going to happen where it's going to go back down to everyone beating me down again. At least that's how it feels. But then you have to look at reality and realize that well, all that happened is you entered a remix competition and you didn't win. I guess at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get across is that I don't want you to be worried that like I've lost faith in myself, I'm so terrible and all that. I don't think that. But what I do think isn't too many steps removed from that, if I'm honest. And that is I do struggle with ever having the faith that I can cross the gap, so to speak. That I'm actually capable of doing great things like that, I'm fully and wholeheartedly believe, but that I actually have the ability to bring that to everyone else and have them see it. That's the part I struggle with. Actually, that's putting it too lightly. That's the part that I struggle to even believe I can ever do. Because it just feels like at every opportunity I try, the answer is, no, I can't do it. To some extent, I realize I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, because it does feel like online is one of the only places where I do find people who actually appreciate what I do. I know that some people are going to pick that out and use it as a point of mockery, but at the end of the day, I don't care. It's true, I'm going to say it. As it turns out, as a guy who is very much not outdoorsy and not athletic and mostly is good at programming stuff and making music, who knows very few people IRL that are actually into dubstep, yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, most of the time I do get any positive attention, it is online. Not even like, oh, I'm such a failure or anything like that, boo-hoo me. Because if we're talking like purely academic success, I mean, I got out of my computer science course with a distinction. That's something I'm apparently supposed to be proud of, but I'm not gonna lie, kind of not. I guess that's the part that kind of feels crazy. It feels like the things I'm actually proud of, I can't convince anyone else is actually good or impressive to have achieved. But things that I do that I honestly don't think were that extraordinary, are these some of the only things that I do get appreciated for, and it just feels a bit, I don't know. I don't have a better word to use than I guess just a bit demoralizing. Either way, yeah, you can tell I didn't lie in the title. Sorry I didn't manage to get this out on Halloween, but well, you can clearly tell why. And just to end this off, I'll let you hear the full track without interruption.
Wait.
Oh, alongside, I nearly forgot, a couple of unused sounds. In fact, much less than usual. Usually when I make a track, there are a lot of sounds that unfortunately don't get used. The amount of times I make something, I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool, but that does not fit anywhere in this track. But on this particular track, again, apparently I locked in, so there was very little that was thrown away. First up, for most of the time I was working on this track, the second build-up for the second drop was copy-pasted as the same build-up used in the first drop. In the end, of course, I did make a slightly different build-up for the first drop, but I actually tried to make a different one at first, and it didn't end up getting used. And that is what you're hearing right now. Not only was this one not the most interesting, but on top of that, it sounded extremely muddy and messy when combined with everything else. It was supposed to be pretty cool, like spectral compressing a pitch-mapped granulizer bass to like the original build-up in the original track, but it just did not come out sounding good. Next up is a sound that's technically used, but so quiet and in the background it may as well be unused. It's used in the bridge section where the vocals kick in after the first drop, and it's this little speedy piano chord thing. I thought it sounded really nice, there just was nowhere to cram it in, so I just thought I'd put this little section here to show it off. And lastly, in case you were interested in hearing it, here are the vocals on their own.
My soul washed away by the reverie of night, conscience and soul of the skies and light. My breath no longer pressed down heavy on my chest, and as old pains left me, I had thought it for the best. But though for a time I knew ignorance was bliss, observing cosmic pain was no way to exist. To dissociate from life was my fatal mistake. That is the reason in our dreams we can never wake.
This is actually the first time in my life I have ever used vocals in a track. Of course, as you can tell, even though it is my voice, it is edited so heavily you can't really tell, but that's very much intentional. I feel like I probably would be capable of singing just about good enough, but I'm too self-conscious for that. I'd get embarrassed singing into the mic alone at home, so I thought the better way to go about it was to do it almost like a bit of a poem, where I say it with a rhythm to it, but I don't actually sing it, and then I just use spectral compression to pitch correct it in post to the chord progression. With all that said, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.